Thanks for joining the Speakers Practice Business Success Strategies interview. The aim of this 30-minute interview is to find out from highly successful experts approaches for building businesses. Each interview will be with a specialist in their field, either international or Australian business owners and entrepreneurs. Our guests will be discussing up-to-date methods and techniques that will give ideas that you can implement and enjoy seeing the results. Our guest today is Megan Apple. Megan is the Chief Making Things Happen Officer of a Virtual Certainty based in Cleveland, Ohio. Our topic for today is the 2 things that are needed to create a business. Hi, Megan.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, well, thanks for being with us.
Absolutely.
It's fabulous to have you here today.
It's great to be here.
Over the past 12 years, Megan has worked with businesses from lots of different industries: financial planning firms, real estate development and investment companies, law firms, healthcare organisations, wellness coaches, life coaches, business consultants, clothing manufacturers, and many more. Megan has learnt how to understand each individual organisation and their industry, and has realised that regardless of the industry or specialty, all successful businesses are built on a strong platform of systems and processes. Megan is a big believer in collaborating with clients and staying around to make things happen. Most importantly, Megan wants clients to succeed. When you work with honesty, directness, lots of tools and strategies, an endless curiosity, and a passion for success, success follows. We're going to be discussing some amazing approaches to increase your revenue and give valuable marketing strategies. Wow, Megan, this is fantastic. Give us a little bit of an overview of a Virtual Certainty and your approaches.
Well, we've been in business for 12 years, and basically our belief is that entrepreneurs want to be successful, but they don't oftentimes know how to close the gap between where they are today and where they need to go. So our approach is to figure out how to close that gap. And it's different for every client.
Yes.
So we start first by doing an assessment. We go in and it's our get to know you. We go in, we chat a little bit, we take a look at what's working and what isn't.
Yeah.
And then from there, we usually identify some things that need to change.
Yeah.
We can put together some strategies. We do a lot of marketing, obviously. Sometimes some executive coaching, training. And then because I believe that if they could do it, they would do it, but they can't. That's where we actually stay around and make things happen. We implement a lot of the strategic objectives that are identified because they don't have the bandwidth internally to do it.
Yes. And just having that support to keep the process going, and I suppose it's accountability is so important.
Yeah, accountability is huge. Successful businesses are successful because they start and complete projects. And a lot of entrepreneurs are starters, not finishers. So they have a lot of great ideas and they have a lot of things that they want to get done, but it's the finishing part that's hard. And that's okay. That's where we come in because we're master finishers. And we can take a lot of those ideas, help them prioritize it, and also keep them accountable to what they're agreeing to do.
Yeah. Well, it sounds such an important resource for small businesses and entrepreneurs. It must be a fantastic area to be working in to build these businesses and see them grow.
It's a lot of fun. It's like putting a big puzzle together.
Yeah.
And, one of the things because you're a book yourself solid coach, but if you choose your clients appropriately so that you work well with them, then it becomes this amazing, energetic collaboration, which helps both the client and frankly, makes it more fun for us.
Yeah. Oh. Well, let's get on to our topic for today, which is just the two things needed to create a business. So, in our discussion for today, purpose is really pivotal in all of this. And so, our first question is, what is purpose and why is it so important?
So, great question. So, all of us have a lot of things that we do well, and we each have one unique gift, what I call our thing that we can bring into the world. And when we operate from that place, which is our purpose and our passion, when we operate from there, what we're able to create is so much more sustainable. Because to build a business takes energy, right?
Yes.
And you are fulfilled if you're working from your purpose and your passion, and you have the fuel that you need to do all the work that it takes in order to create a great, profitable business.
So, is it motivation, or is the motivation comes from the purpose?
I think that it's not motivation. I think that I look at purpose as and passion. I think they kind of go in together. It's the fuel that drives everything. I mean, I know I have, but you probably have worked at a job at some point in your life where you were doing what you should do because you needed to pay the rent or you thought it was what you needed to do. And you could only sustain that for so long. It's not particularly inspiring, right?
That's right, yes.
So you know that when you're hitting your snooze button all the time and not getting out of bed and not getting things done, you probably are out of purpose. You're not working from your passion. And so it is the fuel that drives us. It's more than motivation.
Right.
It's more even than vision. It's the thing that we must do. That is our purpose.
Oh, it's a big area. So it works in beautifully with our next question, which is, how do you find your purpose or identify it?
Great. Also a great question. So most of us actually know it at some level, right? But oftentimes we don't act on it or we don't accept it as ours. Your purpose is often the thing that doesn't feel like work. It feels like play. It goes effortlessly. It's easy for you. And so sometimes we say, that can't be my purpose. It's not hard and horrible, right? But actually, you're probably closer if that's where you are. But you can also ask yourself some questions. For example, when you were a child, what was your favorite activity? What did you like to do? Who did you like to hang out with? If you had all the money in the world, so it was no object, what would you want to spend your time doing? What do you feel the very best doing, talking about, learning? When you feel the most confident and the most knowledgeable and the most happy doing something, what is it? Those kinds of questions get us closer to being able to discover our purpose. And we actually usually know it. We just have to own it. And that can be a little scary. But once you own it, it seems like everything else aligns beautifully.
Yes, the concept of actually owning it and I suppose it's allowing it to be yours. You're allowing yourself to do things that you really want to do rather than have to do out of need or responsibility or whatever you want to call it.
And a lot of my clients, when we do work to find purpose, they're actually a little scared. Because if you know what your purpose is and you are committed to creating a business around it, at the back of your mind, you're always thinking, what if it doesn't work? Because if it doesn't work, then what am I going to do?
Yeah.
So if you don't do it, then you always have the hope that, in fact, you could do it.
Yes.
But once you own it and you commit to it, that fear is just something that's part of the process.
It's part of it. Right. Okay, so our third question is, with a business idea and there comes a whole lot of excitement and passion along with this, when and how is the viability of the business tested?
Well, the best time to test the viability of a business is at the beginning before you do it. Because oftentimes what happens is we get very excited about doing whatever it is that we're going to do, right?
Yes.
And so we start doing it,
yes.
which is fabulous.
Yeah.
Except if we haven't tested our model to make sure that it's viable, then in fact we end up either not being able to proceed, losing all of our money, or having a hobby, not a business.
Yeah.
Because a business is an entity that provides a product or service at a price point that people will pay that allows you to make a profit. That's what a business is.
Yes.
So I don't actually like using numbers very much at all. And I don't think that money or revenue is necessarily the only metric for success. Yeah. But it is a really good starting point when you need to put together a test about viability.
Right.
So you have to know what it's going to take to live, right?
Yes. Yes.
So we may have money. You know, my first business, when I started this business, I had 47 cents in a laptop, for real. But I was really passionate, and I had figured out that if I could find 3 clients, then I could pay my rent. So that was goal number 1, because I knew my numbers.
Yes.
I like having a roof over my head. So I found the 3 clients and did not live in the dumpster. So it starts with figuring out how much money do you need to make, over what period of time, what is your reasonable budget for your business. If you're a service business, of course, it's much less than if you're producing something or manufacturing something.
Yes.
And if I look at those numbers, is it a reasonable assumption, looking at the marketplace and other people who've done it, that I can actually make that happen in a reasonable amount of time? For example, if you're producing widgets and it costs you $4.95 to produce your widget and you can only sell it for $5, that 5-cent margin is not going to be enough to pay your expenses, right?
No, that's right.
So you either have to change the business model, change the production costs or something. Service providers have a little bit of an easier time because their overhead and their cost of goods sold is less. But you still have to know that if you need, let's say, $5,000 a month for your budget and you're charging $100 an hour for your work, although I don't like time for money, but that's another interview, you actually end up having to work 50 hours a month, right?
Right.
So then the question comes, can I find 12 and a half hours worth of work a week?
Yeah.
And if you look around and you see people doing similar things, if you're a coach, for example, and you see people who are coaching, and everybody I've ever approached has always been happy to share, and I'm always happy to share, you can make a reasonable assumption about whether or not this is a viable business. And if it is, if you can make money, then you can proceed. Then you figure out all the rest of it.
Right. Yeah. Oh, it sounds it's taking things practically, like it's looking at things practically, isn't it?
As much as I'm a big believer in passion and purpose, you have to be practical and you have to know the basic foundation for your business. I've known way too many really talented people who've not been able to proceed, in part because they needed to adjust their business model. And had they figured that out at the beginning rather than in the middle, it would have been a lot less painful and expensive.
Yes. Oh, that's such a great point. So this leads into our next question of how does a business owner drive prospective clients to the business?
So probably the other crucial thing, along with determining viability, is how are you actually going to sell your services or your products, right? And that requires a marketing plan.
Yep.
And many people look at marketing and they think of the used car salesman. I don't know if you have them in Australia,
Oh,
but we
yes.
have them here in the United States. And they all have toupees and plaid jackets. And people hate the idea of selling, right?
Yes, yes.
Unfortunately, unless people are ready to buy from you, you are not going to have a business. And they are not going to know that you exist if you're sitting in your home office waiting for the phone to ring. It doesn't work that way.
No.
So you have to create a series of strategies that are hopefully systematized that allow you to market your business.
Right.
And that means, as we know, that you have to know your target market.
Yes.
And you have to determine the very best way that you can let people know that you exist, and also that you can find people that you can share your story with.
Yes.
So back to 12 years ago when I had 47 cents in a laptop,
Yeah.
and that was it. What I did was I started talking to everybody I knew, wherever I was, about my business.
Right.
And believe it or not, and I had lots of conversations, I mean, probably 30, to people who could care less. But one of those people actually introduced me to an individual who introduced me to my first client, who became a very big client over 2 or 3 years. Because I had simply, again, this is where passion comes in and purpose. I was so excited about talking about what I did. And I was so clear what I did that it was easy for someone to get enrolled into passing my name on to somebody else. You have to have a plan.
Yeah.
And you have to be willing to implement that plan, even though it's not comfortable sometimes. And, I mean, we believe in the Book Yourself Solid system, right? That's how we were trained.
Yeah.
And so the lovely thing about Book Yourself Solid is that it's very systematized. So there are things that you do. You can speak, you can write, you can have an online internet strategy, you can refer to people, you can do outreach, you can do networking. You have to find a combination of things that work consistently for you.
Yeah.
And then you actually have to write those things down and create a written plan around it. And it actually doesn't take any more than 45 minutes to an hour a day, which really is not all that long. But if you don't do it consistently and you don't follow up and you don't have value to offer, you're not going to have a business.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's that systematizing or putting those systems in place and making sure that's done every day, routinely, that's so important.
It is important, and I think that's where people get a little bit, they get a bump in the road, right? So I'm going to use a service professional as an example because that's really where my space is. And, an attorney or a coach or an accountant, they work very hard to get clients. And then they have clients. And so then they work very hard to service the clients, which means that they are not still creating the funnel for new business. And I call it the feast or famine cycle. And during feast time, you're stressed because you have too much work to do. And during famine, you're stressed because you're concerned that you're going to live in a dumpster. So the secret is to systematize everything so that you're continually sending your message out and continually creating relationships, because it's through the relationships that our business grows, regardless of what technique we use.
Right. Yeah. And I think your point about embodying what you do and really knowing your it goes back to the purpose, and really knowing your purpose, and then you can go out there and do your marketing, and people see the genuineness of what you're talking about.
And the excitement. I mean, marketing is about building trust, right?
Yes.
And you build trust in many ways. You build trust because you show up authentically. You build trust because you're always looking for ways to provide value, regardless of whether it's to get business or not. One of the best techniques I teach my clients if they go to large networking events, which I, by the way, hate doing, that's not one of my strategies, but some of my clients do. I tell them, get a business card,
Yeah.
have a conversation about whatever it is that interests that person, and the very next day send an email saying, I am so happy that I met you. It was so interesting to talk about aardvarks.
Yeah.
Here is an article that you might find interesting, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's the way that you begin to create the relationship. And you continue to grow that relationship systematically because, after all, the more people you're in relationship with, the more people they know, and that's how your message goes out.
Goes out. Yes. And is there a connection between your message and your purpose?
Always. I mean,
Yeah.
purpose drives everything, right?
Right.
So I say lots of different things depending upon who I'm talking to, but basically I'm there to help make things happen.
Yes.
That's my message. That's my
Yes.
purpose. I want to make things happen for my clients.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if they need to develop a higher level of emotional intelligence, or they need to be better leaders, or they need a marketing plan, or a brand platform, or a website, or a strategy. It doesn't matter.
No.
My purpose is to help people be successful and transform themselves and their business by making things happen.
Yeah.
And if I didn't love doing it, there are many easier ways to make a living, I might add. Many easier ways, but none that fit me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when I talk to people about, let me see what I can do to help you make things happen, that's something that everybody understands, right?
Absolutely.
Because we're constantly frustrated by not being able to get things done.
Yes.
And so that message comes from my purpose, which is authentic. And so that already begins to build trust. And then if I get to know them and I can share a tool or an idea or a concept, then that's even more trust.
Yes.
And that's how things begin to build.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. It's interesting to go through the process and actually see how this works and see how your purpose and your message and then actually what your business is about, how it's all
It's
connected.
together.
Yes. Yeah. And the importance of authenticity. It's
Huge, huge. We talk about branding a lot, right? You got to brand yourself, you got to brand your company. And so what does that really mean? What that really means is, how are you going to show up in the world? What are you going to stand for? What's important to you? And when I work with clients on branding, which has to do with authenticity, everything matters. If you talk about wanting to help people create a process and your website's horrible, or if you want to teach people how to be better leaders and you forget to, return phone calls, if you say you're going to do something and then you don't, all of those things are not only lacking in authenticity, but they also erode that trust and credibility.
Yes.
And that's what your brand is built on, basically.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Oh, thank you for that advice. It's fantastic. Now, our fifth question is one that I ask each of our guests, and it is, what is a strategy that has really helped you grow your business?
Relationships.
Yeah.
Relationships. I think the majority of my business, in fact, I know for sure the majority of my business has come from referrals. My primary self-promotional strategies are writing and speaking, because I like to do both.
Yeah.
And if I, go and speak somewhere, usually I'll create relationships enough that, I'll get some work out of it. But it's all about relationships.
Yeah.
If I can provide value to somebody in an authentic, caring way, I enjoy doing that.
Yeah.
And what I have found over the last 12 years is somehow that always comes back in some way or form. And I think when we stop selling and we start looking to provide value and create meaningful, authentic relationships with people that we actually like,
Yes.
everything else falls in place.
Yes. It's it's so important, and the importance of the people that helping the people that you actually like is a
Yes.
key. Is one of the keys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that I'm sure when I was much younger, well, no, I'm not even sure that, but I've seen people, and you have too, who, they create relationships with people because they're connectors or they're influencers or they're people that might be able to lead to business. And then they go home after spending time with them
Yeah.
and they go, I can't bear to spend another moment with that person. And then they re up and do it again. That doesn't work.
No.
That is manipulation. It's not a relationship. And
Yeah.
if you can't authentically connect with the people you're with, change the people you're with.
Yeah.
Because ultimately it's not going to work.
No. No. Oh, thank you for your advice. It's wonderful. Now, Megan, the next question is, would you like to share something about your business and what your, if you've got something you'd like to offer our listeners?
Actually, I don't know how the best way to do it. You're going to tell me, but I do have a series of exercises called the blank canvas exercises, which actually go about helping people create their purpose statement, their value statement, their mission, and kind of put together the beginnings of a business structure. If you'd like me to give that to you, and you want to make that available with this, I would be happy to do that.
Oh, thank you. That sounds absolutely fantastic. Yes.
It's lots of fun. It's lots of fun.
Yeah. Oh, well, yes. Well, we'll work that out, and then I can post it on the website and the blog, and our
Lovely.
listeners can get it.
Perfect.
Well, Megan, thank you so much for your time today. I just love your message and your purpose you have of making things happen. That is absolutely in small business and probably all business really. That's the key that people are wanting, is just to make things happen so that
Yeah.
it can be more profitable. So it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here today. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
It's been absolutely terrific. So thanks again, and thanks to our listeners for being here today.